Well, good morning, everybody. And I want to start by thanking the Foundation for inviting us here to present our plans for the upcoming GLWL study, and in particular to Dr. Strong for her strong partnership during this whole process of learning about the syndrome and planning our study. And also to Dr. Miller and Dr. Hack for also very strong scientific partnership. Am I too loud? No? Okay. So this molecule is being developed for hyperphagia in Prader-Willi syndrome, and it's been developed by GLWL, which is a Canadian company, and in collaboration with Coros, which is a division from Eli Lilly and Company. So today I'm here representing GLWL. So why Prader-Willi and why this particular molecule? There has been reports in the literature that patients with Prader-Willi have elevated acylghrelin levels, and I'm going to refer to it from now on as AG. And there's two forms of ghrelin that are circulated in the body. One is unacylated ghrelin, and the other one is acylated ghrelin. And the hormone that produces the interconversion between one form and the other, between the unacylated and the acylated, is called GOAT, and abbreviated. So our molecule, what it does is it inhibits that enzyme and therefore decreases the levels of AG that are circulating in plasma. So this research that I was citing before, they showed that certain patients with PWS that present hyperphagia and increases in body weight show not only elevated acylghrelin levels, but also elevated AG over UAG ratios. So the idea is that AG and those ratios are associated with the hyperphagia, and that these elevated levels could be contributing to the development of morbid obesity in PWS. Now, our molecule has been tested in a different population, in a type 2 diabetes mellitus population, and what we have observed, and we have tested it at several single dose and multiple doses for an extended period of time. And what we observed is that when it's administered at doses higher than 150 milligrams twice a day, it causes a reduction in AG levels from baseline and compared to placebo. And we've seen decreases up to 117% in this obese patient with diabetes population. It also has been proven to be safe and well tolerated at doses up to 600 milligrams twice a day. So the objectives of the current study that we're planning, and which has a protocol has been approved. The regulatory interactions that Dr. Strong talked about are underway both in US and Canada, because the objective is to have sites in both countries to give more patients the opportunity to participate in the trial, is to assess the efficacy of our molecule at a dose of 450 milligrams twice a day compared to placebo in reducing the hyperphagia-related behaviors after multiple dosing in patients with PWS. And we're using one of the questionnaires that Dr. Strong referred to. I didn't know you were going to do this introduction, but it was wonderful. So the secondary objectives are to evaluate the safety and tolerability of our molecule after multiple oral dosing, and then to assess the efficacy compared with placebo in using a different scale, which is a caregiver global impression of change, just to validate the primary objective tool as well, and then to evaluate the pharmacokinetics after single and multiple oral dosing. As exploratory objectives, we are also looking at the effect on the following measures, which are acylghrelin and the AG over UAG ratios that I had mentioned before, and then measures of body size as well. And in terms of body size, we're looking at weight, percent of fat mass, BMI, and waist circumference. And then also at low density lipoproteins and total cholesterol. In terms of the study per se, this is a randomized double-blind study that will be occurring in multiple centers. It's placebo-controlled, and it's a 2-period crossover, which means that every patient will be on the molecule, the active molecule on one treatment and then on placebo on the other treatment period. We will enroll 34 patients with PWS, and the total duration for a patient is of about 18 weeks. So we have to have also a decent washout time between the periods to make sure that the effects of one period don't affect the other period. As for key inclusion and exclusion criteria, we will have the typical inclusion-exclusion criteria that are used in every trial, but more specifically to the syndrome. Will enroll male and female patients with a confirmed diagnosis of PWS, of ages of 16 years old and older, so between 16 and 65, with a BMI of between 27 and 60 kilograms per meter square. Another one of the inclusion criteria is that we ask that they have had a stable body weight for the previous 3 months, and we are defining that as self-reported or a guardian-reported weight loss or weight gain of no more than 10% variation. And then because of the other disabilities that are associated with the syndrome, the caregiver role is really important in the trial. So we're asking that the caregiver must have been caring for the subject, for the patient, for at least 6 months before entering into the study, and that the caregiver remains the same caregiver throughout the study, and that they spend at least 4 waking hours per day on average with the patient. So that is not too much of a problem when the patients live at home. It might become more of an issue with patients in group homes. And that is why for our exclusion criteria, so the criteria that we wouldn't allow patients to participate in the trial, is if they're living in a group home for more than half of the time, so more of 50% of the time. If they have used recently weight loss agents, so medications for weight loss, including herbal medications, within 3 months, or if they have type 1 diabetes or are using insulin. And then, of course, if the primary caregiver is unable to read or understand the questionnaire or communicate with the investigator or the site staff. And so this is a very high level of the protocol, and much more detailed information is, of course, in the protocol that would be available to the sites once the sites are enrolled. So that's all I had. I don't know if we'll do questions now or at the end. Yeah, the side effects that we have seen in the previous trial are mild and moderate. There were no severe adverse events, and they're mostly GI tract related, so nausea, that type of thing. Yes.
Do you know yet where the sites will be?
No, not yet. We have a couple of sites that we are more advanced in conversation with, but we don't have a definitive yet. But we're looking. Both US and Canada, yes. Thank you.